are going to start reading our big books. You don't have to have your book in hand this second, but I'm going to give you some tips for this first week of reading so that you are starting off on the right foot. My first tip is kind of a superficial one, but you know that I love book covers, I love book design, and I like to take care of my books. And one of the ways that I do that is by preparing any paperbacks that I'm going to read. And you can do this very easily as well. I've already done this some time ago with this particular copy of Anna Karenina. Set it out on a flat table. I'm gonna rest that middle weight of the book down flat on the table. And I'm gonna start by smoothing out the cover pages down on the table just gently, and then I'm going to go in increments of maybe 3 to 5 pages per side, and I'm going to smooth down those 3, keep going through. It might flop a little. You want to keep correcting it, putting it back to the middle, and again, you're just doing this gently. This can feel like a chore, but if you think about it, you're just preparing the book. You're gonna get to handle it and get acquainted with it, and that's kind of what this video is all about. Doing that is going to protect your spine from getting those creases down the sides that often happen as you read and you crack open certain portions of the book. Everyone loves those floppy paperbacks, and I can promise you it's going to loosen it up a little and you're going to have some good floppiness. One of the things that I recommend is to have some options. For this one, I may see if the Libby app has an audiobook in stock for me to borrow, so that if I'm feeling a little fatigued by reading the page, I can do an activity and listen to the audiobook. That's also gonna hit one of the spaces for me for the Summer is Covered bingo board, which is cool. It just helps to have another option to rely on. Maybe you're gonna go on a big trip, or you're driving by yourself to work each day. You don't have as much time to sit down and dedicate yourself to reading off of a page, and so having an audiobook as an option can be a great idea. So I recommend looking into the best format for you. The next step of prep that you're going to want to do is flip to the back of your book if there's a notes section or a glossary of terms, and go ahead and put a page flag, a post-it note, or just a thin bookmark that you don't mind using for that purpose in the back of your book. That not only is going to help you have a very quick access to the notes, but you're also going to be able to see how much you actually are dealing with when it comes to that big book. So you're gonna have a better idea of where the story actually ends. And then in the front of the book, what you're gonna do is check and see if your book has an introduction or a commentary by a modern author. It's up to you, but personally, I don't like to read those until after I've finished the work that they're talking about, because oftentimes they're gonna dive into the themes and it can be a little bit of a spoiler. It's not always the case, but it is something that you can steer clear of if you're a little concerned about that. After you skip past the intro, what you're gonna do is, again, put a page flag in on the first page of the story. My next tip is to try a few different methods to read your big book. The math method is figuring out exactly how many pages are in that story alone, and then you're going to take a look at the number of weeks that you want to be reading this book. Today, July 2nd, all the way through September 3rd, so there's a little extra time if you need to make up some reading. I did the math method and I figured out that I have 815 pages and I want to be reading for 8 weeks because I have vacation plans, and so I know I'm not going to be wanting to try to hit a page total for that week. So for me to be able to accomplish that goal, since I have 8 weeks to work with instead of 9, my goal is going to be to read at least 100 pages a week, which is totally doable. One of the tips that is given to writers is to take a break when you feel like you're still enjoying what you're writing. So rather than continuing until it becomes laborious and then you're going to return and find that a lot of what you've written isn't really what you were aiming for, it's good to stop when you're still in a good mood and you still are looking forward to sitting back down with your book again. That's the whole point of what we're doing anyways, is to enjoy what we're reading, right? So that is the mood reading method. It would be to put it down even if you haven't quite hit your page count goal for the day or for the week, and to give yourself a little space so that you're reading it when you're actually enjoying that experience and you're not forcing yourself to do it, because it's not meant to be a chore, it's supposed to be something that you're enjoying.
I can't. It's too much.
Be patient with yourself, and if you aren't enjoying what you're reading and that's becoming a trend for you, if it's been a week or two and you still aren't really clicking with this particular book that you chose, go ahead and give yourself some grace. Pick up a different book. Our main goal is that you are picking up the books that you're afraid of and seeing if they are a good fit for you. Instead of trying to power through it just to complete it for the sake of the challenge, go ahead and try something different. This next one is kind of an illustration that I made up for myself, and that is the match method. The idea is just like when you've blown out a candle and it's only been a couple seconds, you can strike a new match, hold it over the smoke that's rising from that candle, and it'll relight the wick. Use that initial excitement to fuel your reading, and to use that to your advantage, read a little bit more while you're excited about it. The other part of the match method is to try not to let your book sit cold for more than a few days. And the reason is it's going to be a lot harder to relight that spark and continue in the book, and the longer you're away from it, the more you might feel dread. I really want to push back against that. I don't want to feel like I have to read this book. I want to feel like I get to read this book. So in order to help me do that, I'm going to make it a habit, whether it's the space that you're going to read the book in, or maybe it could be 1 to 2 days a week that you are dedicating in it, whether it's the time of day that you generally are going to open that up. But having some constants will help you not only have a pattern and a habit that you're building, but also to kind of get your mind prepared for what you're about to do. Other method for reading your big book is to sprint with others, and while that seems kind of self-explanatory, I'm going to go ahead and say to anyone who didn't know, it can be helpful for you to join a reading sprint. You get to chat and kind of unwind with other readers, and then have some dedicated time. Usually it's a 30-minute increment, maybe an hour, where you're reading that book, but you're still on the call with the other readers and everyone is doing the same thing. So you have that kind of extra level of knowing, even though there aren't other people in the room, there are other people that are working on things, that are trying to make progress in things. It kind of weirdly encourages you to keep going, and it also reminds you to take breaks. So that's what I really like about it. If you want to do some sprints on your own time, that's totally doable as well. I would just recommend that if you are setting a timer for yourself and you're gonna dedicate that time to sitting down and reading your book, to put your phone in the other room. So set the timer, put the phone in the other room, or you can still hear it when the timer goes off, but you're not going to be reaching for it, you're not going to be checking social media, you're not going to be distracted. You're actually giving that focused time to reading your book. Remember that the author did not write this book in a few weeks. So you are reading something that they most likely worked on for the greater part of their life, if not at least years of it. So give yourself lots of patience and enjoy what you're reading. And one of the great ways to do that is to annotate.
What are you doing? I'm writing this down. This is good stuff.
That can be as simple as you want it to be. It can be as complex as you want to be. I like to do as a start is to use page flags, and I have picked up a pack that probably has 8 of these little tab sets, and they come in different colors, and they were very inexpensive. I'll link them in the description box below for you. What I do is when I'm reading and there's something that stands out to me on the page, I'll grab one of these, stick it parallel to that line. I can either go back and review it when I'm done with my reading for that day and write in the margin what I was thinking when I put that tab down, or I could stop and do it in the moment if I wanted to. Sometimes I will read through books and I'll just use the tabs, and then when I go back through it, when I finish the book, I will grab my phone and take a photo of each of the pages where I had a tab. I have an iPhone, and in my phone I can actually hold down my finger on the photo and it will highlight the text in the image. And so that helps me if I want to write a review, if I want to write a script, or if I just want to file away in my photo library quotes that stood out to me. That's not only an easy way to annotate your books, but it's also a really non-damaging way. So if you don't want to write in them, you can use these. If you just really like to keep your books with no markings in it, that is a foolproof way to do that. Whatever way you decide to annotate, I would recommend doing it because it really does enhance your experience of reading, and that's gonna not only give you a more fun time while you're reading the book for the first time, it's also gonna make your copy of the book your own. You're gonna wanna keep it on your shelf no matter how bad it becomes, because your thoughts, your experience of reading it is captured in those pages. Another way to really enjoy your reading is to do some research. You can read about who the author was, what are the subjects and titles of some of their other works, the cultural setting, and some of the themes that you might find in their book. Another fun thing you can do is look up fan art for the book that you're reading and see what other readers have made as a result of their time reading the book. You might come across some spoilers in your search for fan art. It's more likely that you're going to come away with a cast of characters than spoilers, so if you want to do that, go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to say again, be patient with yourself. Try not to rush reading. Don't just cram through those 100 pages or whatever your page goal is for the week for the sake of accomplishing it, because when you rush, you start to miss things and you're going to get frustrated because you'll have to start going back to find what you missed. You're not going to enjoy the story as much because you're going forward with some missing pieces. So I recommend take your time. If you find yourself rushing, take a break from it and then come back to it either later that day or a different day that week. That's just going to save you any frazzled searching to trace your steps back. The last tip that I'm going to give you might seem weird, don't just read your big book. Read other books too. If you enjoy reading and that's why you got into this challenge, make sure that you're reading other smaller books as well. The reason why is not only because we love reading on here, it's gonna make you feel like you're still accomplishing something while you're still progressing through this big book. Reading other books to let your imagination wander to different settings and to knock some other titles off your TBR is gonna make your experience reading this even better, I promise. It's gonna keep you feeling like you're still accomplishing something, even when you're not seeing visible progress in your big book. So those are all the tips that I have either learned or accumulated from other readers in this space. Is there one that stood out to you that you haven't tried before that you're eager to test out? I would love to know if you have any specific advice that I didn't mention here. Please drop it in the comments below, or even better yet, join our Big Book support group. It is literally the cost of a tall cold brew from Starbucks, so I wanted to make sure you know about it, and you can join at any time by clicking the link in the description box below. And if you made it this far and you don't really know what to comment, go ahead and comment the emoji of the red book. I hope your reading month is off to a great start and that you have a wonderful first week as part of the Big Book support group. I will see you in another video soon.